Audio file 23. My love of coffee didn't start as a love of coffee. It started as a love of community. When I was in high school, I was obviously too young to get into any of the bars, so the only place open late for me was the one 24-hour Starbucks we had in town. At the end of any sort of social evening, I tried to move some sort of party there. But as my lactose intolerant self worked through many milky espresso-based drinks, I found myself wanting to know more about coffee. I mean, the photos on the wall and what little I already knew told me that there had to be more to this world than meets the eye. But every time I excitedly went up to a barista and asked for something different, I inevitably ended up with a latte with a different combination of flavored syrups in it. Not exactly what I had in mind by different kind of coffee. I couldn't really taste the coffee, and in the end, it turns out I didn't even really like the coffee. After a couple months, I became discouraged, and coffee became just a social thing for me again. However, a few years ago, my friend Steve told me that the best coffee shop around had just opened up in town. I excitedly went down as soon as I could, and not understanding the magnitude of the place I just stepped into, I ordered a black coffee from the drip machine. Now, it wasn't bad, and maybe I was just too new to the world of coffee, or maybe they hadn't quite fine-tuned this element of their service yet. They'd only been open for a couple days, but I certainly wasn't impressed. Slightly disappointed, I told Steve about my experience, and he told me that I had to go back and try again, but this time order a pour-over. A pour-over? What was that? I had to write this down. A few days later, I found myself back downtown and ordered a... what was it called again? Oh right, a pour-over. They asked me about origins and methods, and I was clearly way out of my depth. So thankfully they took over this part of the decision-making process for me, knowing that I did enjoy a black cup of coffee. And this is the experience that changed coffee for me. The cup they gave me, it was kind of berry and nutty, but exceptionally brighter than anything I had before. It was the first time tasting notes started to make sense, and I started to get excited about coffee again. I couldn't believe that what I was drinking was simply warm water poured over fresh grounds. I started wanting pour-overs all the time, splitting it with whoever I could in the restaurant in order to keep prices down. When I couldn't find someone to share it with, I'd go for an Americano, a drink I'd heard of before but had only recently been turned on to. Eventually my Americanos got shorter until they became an espresso, which is now my go-to drink. But single origin pour-overs never got old for me. There was always something new to try. And this is that place, Monogram Coffee Roaster. This is where I learned most of what I know about coffee. Yes, I've read all sorts of books and articles, and I've got to experience great coffees from well-known shops around North America, but this is what tastes like home to me. So why am I telling you this? Because I, like any other critic or commentator, need to be taken with a grain of salt. I like my espresso rich with a bit of a bite, and those sort of darker flavors, that dark chocolate, maybe butterscotch and cherry. Not to say that I don't like brighter fruity and floral flavors in my espresso, but it just doesn't taste like home to me. Likewise, most of my favorite pour-overs have had strong berry notes and have been a sweet and mild sort of taste. So when I go to somewhere where espresso tends to taste brighter, or when I'm comparing pour-overs between each other, just because something's not my favorite doesn't mean it won't be your favorite. I'll always do my best to speak fairly about coffee, but we all have our favorites. Also, when I make videos just briefly talking about different topics in coffee without really digging into them, know that the standards I'm using are the ones that I learned from here. I understand that not every place makes every drink the same way, that sizes, ratios, and techniques differ from place to place. But this is what I have to call on. This is my home. And now I encourage you to go and find the flavors available around you and grow with them. Find something you love and then find something completely different that's also amazing. Find your bias.